This production comes to you in association with J. Hartley Plastering and Rendering, covering all aspects of plastering and rendering. No job too big or too small. Contact Joe or Jason today on 07871 752 900 to get your quote today.
Hello, good evening and welcome back. Episode number 24 of the Ring on the Salford podcast. Real double bubble this week as this is the second time that we're recording this week, although this won't go out till next week. We'll let them into all the secrets here, don't we, Paul? But I'm your host, Matt Timms, and joining me tonight is my co-host, Paul Whiteside. How are you doing, Paul?
I'm all right, mate. You're paying me overtime then, because you had me on twice this week.
Well, I was going to ask you how you're getting on, because when I asked you that question on Monday and I said, how's your week been? You said it's only Monday. You've had a couple more days now, haven't you?
We have. Yeah, I'm doing all right, mate. Busy as busy, but I've finished now. I'm off for. I'm going on holiday Saturday to Saturday, so I'm off. So I've just finished my last boiler for till Tuesday, week on Tuesday. So got a bit of time off now, mate. Arranged my holidays so I don't miss a match. So all good.
So I was going to come into that because I think that, it gets you a lot of brownie points from the listeners of this podcast. Maybe not so much from your wife after you had to change the date of your holiday.
No, because it costs a bit more money, and the flights coming home are crap because we've got to wait all day to come home. But she understands, doesn't she? She understands.
Yeah, it is what it is. Good man. Yeah, good man. And like I say, a very special episode tonight as we're joined by Managing Director of Operations, Malc Crompton, and CEO of Salford RLFC, Ryan Brierley. How are you doing, guys?
Buzzing.
Glad
to finally get on.
Right. When we did that little interview at West Horton Lions, and you said, "Yeah, we'll get you on," and then you said, "Oh, you got my brother on before me," and all that, right? This doesn't. You're not admonished from it. This isn't your appearance. This is a joint appearance. You've got to come back again and do it at the end of the season.
I've got my bodyguard Malc on now with me, so I'm all right.
I didn't know that. So Dexter's took the lead, has it?
Yeah. Give the fans what they want. Give the fans what they want.
I was saying Dexter was supposed to be the first person who came on here, but I was telling you, weren't I, that his car broke down the night he was supposed to come on the show, so he never ended up coming on first. We ended up with Joe Hartley instead coming on first.
Good old Dexter, eh? Like that. That's great.
Thanks for getting up and jumping on this with us, Malc. I mean, it's just on 6 o'clock in the morning where you are. We like to let the listeners into all the behind the scenes stuff here. We don't go, yeah, we've recorded this just as it's going out and stuff like that. They know we're recording different times and stuff like that. But thanks for jumping on with us at 6:15 in the morning.
My pleasure, Matt. It's important, to get these podcasts out of the way, and as you'll find out throughout today, 6 o'clock calls have been pretty normal for the last 6 months, as well as midnight calls, and Ryan on both sides of the world. So Ryan will tell you that it's pretty normal. But no, I'm really pleased to be on board and just doing the podcast with you and Paul.
I mean, you've segued in really nicely there. So, I mean, look, we're going to get straight into it tonight because we've got a lot to cover, and the way I kind of thought we'd talk about this is kind of going back and working a bit like the podcast that we normally do when we talk to players, and we work back, right at the start and then work our way forward to present day and look forward. And I think that's probably the tonic for this episode tonight. So, I mean, Matt, let's talk about like your involvement and, being sort of one of them founder members within the current board of directors within the club. So take us back to like last December and let's talk about how it all started.
Wow, yeah. Matt, a bizarre set of circumstances. Look, this started for me. I've been involved in the club on and off for many, many years. Many of your listeners will probably remember me, if they do, from the initial chairman of Forever Reds, which was set up. John Wilkins asked us to set up Forever Reds to fundraise to keep the club full time in a year where we were relegated. And that was kind of, and I got a group of people together, Paul Parkin, Danny Gray, Shirley Bradshaw, people everybody will know. And we raised, I think, just over £90,000 in that year. And that year we bounced back up again. And then in and out of the course of the next probably 25 years, been involved in the club at setting up the Platinum Club as a sponsor, as a fan. And like most of us, you know, Dad grew up in Salford, Mum grew up in Salford, Dad's dad. You know, my kids have been to Salford growing up, and you know, and been involved around the club. And when we're looking at the new stadium, I was involved talking to John Wilkins and Howard Clegg at the time. So I've had kind of lots of ins and outs within the club. But last August, I came back to England. Sadly, my mum was a bit poorly. I had to come back, and it was a time that no Salford fan wants to remember. Excuse me. You know, I felt I had to try and do something, so I arranged to go and see Siren Curtis. I met them on 3 or 4 times to try and work out what was going on, but in the end felt that there was not really much I could do to that, but I helped that situation. But what I did do was organise the meeting that took place with the 1873 and Curtis and Paul King. And whilst that meeting itself probably didn't achieve anything outside of it, at least it gave the guys who were protesting, and rightly so, the opportunity to voice their opinions in a formal environment. And then I left. Shortly after I came back, as some of the listeners may know, I'm extremely good friends with Derek Beaumont, who's been a really good mentor and very supportive of Salford throughout this last 6 or 7 months. He's really good friends with Paul Hancock. So when the initial consortium was brought about, Paul decided that he wanted to form his own consortium. He felt that there was a better option on the table. He contacted Derek because they're friends. And Derek said to him, I know exactly the person you need to speak to. Just one problem. He goes, what's that? He said he lives 12,000 miles away in Australia. So we spoke. Immediately when I spoke to Paul, there's 2 things. But firstly, bizarrely, never met and never spoke before. I mean, very, very small world. We're in Salford. But he'd already raised £100,000 by knocking on sponsors' doors and saying he wanted to form. And he'd connected with Mason. Him and Mason go back from Mason's playing days. Excuse me. Sorry. And then he told me what his plans were and essentially said, right, you know, do you want to get involved? And I was like, oh, yeah, well, it sounds good. Yeah, what do we need to do? Very quickly learned that getting involved meant a full business plan, full financial forecasts, stadium deal. I mean, basically everything that you needed to do to put a club together, which on the face of it sounds relatively simple, but trust me, it isn't. And then I said, oh, right, when do we need to do that? 2 weeks. And I was like, so you need a full business plan, full financial forecast, we need a stadium deal, we need to assemble a consortium. Well, I do like a few challenges in my life, so I was in. You know, in fact, probably the easiest way to get me on board is tell me that you can't do something, and then I'll do it, because that's probably me all over. So yeah, so got together, Paul, Mason, myself. I'm fortunate that I run a number of businesses, and I've got a lot of team around me, senior people, marketing guys, brand guys, IT guys, and assembled a team. But very shortly after that, I'd been speaking to John Wilkinson and asking for advice. Ryan was wanting to help the club, as he'll tell you himself in a minute. He'd been to see John Wilkinson and said, you know, that there was 2 consortiums at the time. In the end, I think it was 3. And Ryan was sort of put forward to us, and we had a call, and I think it was almost straightforward. I think we connected straight away as a group, but I think personally Ryan and I connected really well. He saw what we were about, and off we went. And then night day, 7 days a week. I mean, it was crazy, but the passion that was brought to the table for that group of people was something I've never experienced. I've said it before on many occasions when I've been asked, if I could take that team of people and the passion that was displayed and drop it into a new business, I'll be retired by now. because literally you can't create that. And I've never experienced it. I've got really good people around me very motivated people. People at my senior management team is 20 years, 15 years, 13 years, working night shifts, but this was special. So we began the process, submitted the bid, and then obviously we were fortunate on the 23rd of December we got the gig. Probably one of the most emotional times I've ever experienced in my life. Ryan will say the same, but she had a number of tears. It was a lot of emotions, but very quickly after that, Matt, you have to go, right, well, Ryan said, just to let you know, we've got a fans forum on the 6th of January. We've got first game on the 16th. We've got no players, no kit. So it's just, you got to forget about it and get on. So it was a fascinating experience, one I'll never forget in my entire life, and one I'm so pleased to be a part of. I'm sure Ryan will have some comments to add on that.
Yeah, you go, Ryan, go on.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Just to echo Malc's sentence really about how crazy it was. It's just something again, it'll never happen again. How it was, and a bit of context around it. Malc had obviously a great team around him, but I guess blended with all us, like you had these Zoom calls at daft o'clock in the morning, daft o'clock at night, and there's a guy in Thailand, guy in Dubai, guy in Australia, guy in England, and it's like the maddest thing ever, the maddest like Zoom call ever, really. And ultimately, you're doing it not knowing if you're going to get the club right. This all might be in vain as well, which I guess would have broken all our hearts really, because I've always said about this group is sometimes I took stock of what we was all doing. Malc's can't really explain him really. He's weird. He's weird, right? He's weird, but his willingness, desire, utmost determination and courage, probably courage more than anything, to not lose is infectious. And it's probably right why we get on so well is because I see a lot of what I want to be in Malc. He's brutal, he's ruthless at times, but what he is, he's actually quite soft, and actually wants other people to do really well. And I think I've said it previously. He'd rather you fail so he can help you succeed rather than watch you succeed and let you fail. It's a bit weird like that. He almost wants to help you when you're down. That's quite a rare characteristic in professional sport. You don't really get that. Been around it a long time, there's not many good people, if I'm honest, Matt, in professional sport, especially rugby league. So that when you have people like that back in your corner and back in your team, it's important you hold on to them. And Malc will probably tell you, I've held on to his ankles stronger than I've ever held on to anything else. So I think from my personal journey, I also left the club the back end of the season. It had ran its course. I think you all know that without going into too much detail. I was sick of the lies. I was sick of trying to defend the club and trying to protect the players, and it just become too much of a pain, to be honest, to keep doing it. And I just felt that the more senior players that stayed and kind of put up with the nonsense, it kept giving them two individuals more time. And I just thought I need to get some control back and put it in my own hands and take it out of their hands. And obviously then shortly after, also went into administration. But if I'm going to be completely honest, which is what I wanted to be on this podcast, is that when I signed for Oldham, I'd lost all love of rugby league, if I'm honest. The Salford situation broke me to pieces. I had nothing left. I think if you watched, and I've watched a couple of games back for Oldham, and it really scared me. It scared my family because I'd gone. I wasn't the right person, wasn't the same person. And throughout that process, I was trying to figure out how I can help Salford. As bad as that sounds, I just had no interest in Oldham, if I'm being completely honest. I was just there for the sake of being there, picking up a wage, just to get to the end of the season, because I knew at Salford I wouldn't have got paid.
Yeah.
So, and which happened. So I was just dragging it out, to be honest, to get to that. that finish line again, passion had gone, didn't want to play, so I was debating retiring anyway, to be honest, because I just didn't want to play for any other club than Salford. It killed me. My soul had gone, so I wanted to help. I just felt as a Salford fan, Salford captain, I felt almost like obliged to help. That I can't sit here and let this club go under and at least, and I guess look in the mirror and go, I didn't even try to help. So I spoke to John, who mentioned Malc and Paul were putting something together, and I should join them. I should go and help them. Paul rang me, wanting me to go for a meeting with him in his plumbing shop. When I met him and I'll be honest, I didn't say a word. It's funny if you ask Paul Hancock the story now, he says what a horrible man I was when he first met me. 'Cause I didn't say a word. Because bear in mind, I'd heard all the stuff before, I'd heard all the dream before, so I was just so skeptical of everybody. Didn't have a clue who Malc was, didn't have a clue what Mason was up to these days, even though I played in Toronto, so I just didn't think anything of it, and just praying that it did, but protecting myself at the same time. Jumped on a Zoom call with Malc and who gave me the utmost confidence that it was going to be done the right way, and again with the team he's got was pretty special. And then pretty much on the 23rd of December, I retired overnight because I almost protected myself. Like, yeah, I'm going to be the CEO. I'll be the CEO if we get the club, but I don't think we'll get the club. Protecting myself really. Got the club and was like, same as Mal, cried my eyes out. Realizing that I was going to get given a chance, not only for the dream job, but to rescue the club I support. And I'm so lucky to, I guess, be in the position I am, to have the support from Malc in particular, and the rest of the board members backing me to do what I do. Because let's be honest, I had no right to be in the position I am. I'm just a player for the club, with no real background or experience of being a CEO, and even now I'm so out my depth with some things which I lean on Malc massively. But I think the bit they did see in me was a guy who weren't willing to lose. And a bit like I guess it shares the philosophy of our group. It was a group that was, when I say I took stock about how Malc would say something, Paul would say something, Mason would say something, Andy would say something, Marcel would say something, and I'm going, I've been in teams where they don't care, and it doesn't matter if they win or lose, doesn't really matter. This group wasn't going to lose. It wasn't going to lose, and even now, the magnitude of what we've achieved is crazy. Like what people see on the X, like even other clubs working with football clubs, they can't believe how much of a good job we've done. And me and Malc sit there and go, yeah, cheers. What's next? What's next? Next bit, next job. And we don't. And it was weird. Malc came back a couple of months ago, and we went for breakfast. I've said this before. Took me for breakfast, and told me to stop and shut up, and said, "Just want to say well done for what you've done." And I broke down in tears, gone, crying my eyes out, because it was the first time someone had gone, Ryan, stop, understand what's happened. And I did. I was like, wow, I just broke down to him. And it was so bizarre because when someone actually stops you in your tracks to go understand what you've achieved, it was so like nice and powerful. But it is so crazy and impressive to what we've achieved, which we won't. And Malcolm will back us up. The reason why we are so passionate and so driven is because we want this club to succeed on a level it's never succeeded before, and that's why we don't have any really like aims and goals, because I know Malc, again, back to my first point, he's weird. I don't think anything's ever enough for us as a group. It's not, and I think it's really easy to get lost in fans saying that or businesses saying that, yeah, what's next? But we really have no ceiling and no limit, because me and Malc are weird, and that's the bottom line of it. We're doers. We want to win. So I think that in a nutshell is the context of my how I end up in there. And Malc had to and I think it's important I mentioned this on this podcast, is that Malc did some things for me during that process in December, private stuff, personal stuff, which I'll never be able to thank him enough for. Without going into too much detail, there's a few things personally and then a few things with Oldham, what he had to put his neck on the line for me. So I think it's important that the Salford fans and the world know how much this guy backed me. So I think it was without making Malc's head grow bigger than it is. I think it's important that the world and the fan base know you've got a leader who's going to back people to make this club successful.
There's a lot of stuff. I just want to pick up on a few bits out of what both of you just said. Yeah. First of all, I just want to say, from someone who's worked for a consistent amount of time in Indian Standard Time in the UK, I sympathise with you being on calls at all hours of the day, albeit to a lesser extent, because the biggest time difference between us and India is only ever 5.5 hours. But I did do it, so I can sympathise with being on calls at silly o'clock. You both showed a bit of a vulnerability then, and it's something that Paul and I encourage when people come onto this podcast, and it's happened a few times this season, and it's nice because it allows us to see into the person rather than, because sometimes what you show on the outside isn't always what you show on the inside. But we both appreciate you both showed a bit of vulnerability then. Really, really thank you for that. I was going to come to your time at Oldham in terms of like that conversation with Mike Ford. Might do that in a minute, but we're independent. We're partners, but we're independent. But I'm not gonna blow smoke. But I remember going back into last season, because you were on the Bench podcast, weren't you, last season?
Yeah.
If I remember right. And that was probably one of the most professional displays of 2025 from anyone to any media outlet. And I think, you did a couple of like commentary stints and stuff like that, I think, after that as well. But for me, it was just really more of an acknowledgement to you around your professionalism, even going through that, because I can't imagine what it was like going through that as a player, still turning up, training, playing with this black cloud lingering over you, and then going and probably showing the most professional display on that podcast on the Bench, which was actually a really, really good episode as well, mate. Your Oldham stint, because you talked about that, Malc and his involvement there. That must have been like a really, really tricky conversation to go and have with Mike Ford and the like.
No, it was dead easy.
Was
yeah,
it? Oh, was
yeah,
it? You're just telling me? Yeah.
I
just made it really clear when Ryan won't be playing for anyone. He's coming playing for Salford, and Mike won't mind me saying there was a few expletives said, and we got off on the right foot, and that was it. It was done. No, jokes. Look, it was done professionally. I applaud Mike's response because they'd sold, they'd Oldham sold season tickets off the back of Ryan coming, and I understood that. But selfishly, Ryan needs to be at Salford, so I had to make that deal happen. And I think if you ever spoke to Mike, I would hope that he was unhappy with the decision, but was happy with the way I approached it and the agreement that we reached in the end, to allow Ryan to come across and be, because obviously it was kind of the worst hidden secret, wasn't it? Ryan's not the CEO, but he is the CEO, and people leaking stuff, and look, we were conscious of that, and me particular, I really don't do things under the table. I need front things. You deal with issues. And sometimes they're not easy to deal with. Sometimes you don't get the right result, but as long as you walk out of a meeting or a telephone conversation where you've been honest and upfront about things, and it was getting out too much. So I will say, Oldham were good, and Mike particularly, who I engaged with in the end, wasn't happy, but I wouldn't have been happy if it was on the reason on the end side. But I knew that it was important for us and important for Salford that Ryan was unveiled, because it was important for the RFL as well.
Yeah, cool, absolutely. Paul, is there anything you want? Because we've covered a lot there. Is there anything you want to ask at this point before we move on?
I'm going to say that I think just to echo what Malc said, we needed Ryan a lot more than what Oldham needed him, didn't we? At the end of the day, and it was a massive part of it. I was just going to say that then, but no, there's not a lot really I wanted to add to it. Really, I'm getting a bit emotional myself listening because it was awful last season, wasn't it? But bringing it all back now. But no, you carry on, mate.
Cool. Right. Well, let's move into, because we chronologically we're into January, and well, we're into the year now. We're into 2026. But Mal, let's come back to you and talk about a bit about your role as MD of Ops and the sort of the day-to-day stuff that you do.
Yeah, brilliant. I mean, look, titles are titles. I don't really care what a title is. Frankly, they mean nothing. But what I felt amongst the group, and the group felt when we were working on the bid, is that I brought a huge amount of experience. I have multiple businesses. I've been involved in businesses that have had 1,000 staff, and I've now got a group of businesses, got a core management team. Look, I'm very structured about how things I do. I have some really basic stuff like manners, very, very important to me. Ryan will tell you, I always say please, I always say thank you. And where does it come from? It comes from my mum and dad and how I've been brought up. Because, I don't care whether you're the Prime Minister, a billionaire, and I've met billionaires and I've met people that are less fortunate. It makes no difference to me whatsoever. They will still be treated the same way. And that, I would hope, is exactly what this group portrays itself all the time. It's not about ego. It never will be. And if ego has come into this group, then I won't be part of it. But I don't believe it will. So it's pretty simple for me, really. Where does Salford fans and sponsors get the best value from Malc Crompton? Well, leading, yeah, of course, and keeping people in check and having conversations with board members about, they want to talk about an idea or run something by me. But by the way, I'm not always right. And Ryan, I appreciate the comments Ryan's made so far about me, but I've learned stuff from Ryan. I learned stuff from Paul, stuff from Mason. You never stop learning. But I do have a quite strict structure around how we need to do. I mean, when we're on meetings, like people start waffling, I'm like, and not rudely, but I bring everybody back because first and foremost, we've got a lot to get through in a small amount of time. So that really operationally, it's making sure that everything's operating in all the key components. Of course, that's what you'd want from an MD. But the main value for me is I'm a deal guy. And I have said consistently over the years to many ownership groups and fans alike that we need to get into different markets. We need to be talking to different businesses and opportunities that are outside of the normal revenue streams, and dancing on different dance floors, as I call it. Yeah, and that's what we're doing already. And for me, I need to find that rabbit in a hat and that big opportunity. But big opportunities often come with conditions. But it's what I'm used to doing. I do a lot of large deals, but I also love doing small deals. But for the club now, I've got a number of opportunities that have been are in play. We'll talk around. You're aware of the deal we struck with Luke Backhouse and Matt Mason. Luke's got their partners. Luke's got obviously a very successful property business. He's also got a lot of connections with a lot of big brands in the UK. Matt, who I speak to mainly because he's in LA, and LA and Sydney works time zone wise. Real interesting character. Very, very motivated, very positive. But he sits in the sports consultancy world, and I can't say too much, but there's some extremely interesting meetings that are going on. But all of them are irrelevant unless one of them comes in. So I say all day long, let's keep knocking on as many doors as possible. And I'm confident both Luke and Mac are going to bring one of them to the table. And when they do, there'll be big opportunities. But we'll sit down as a group and we'll assess, is that opportunity the right opportunity for Salford? And I want to give a quick analogy. We can go and talk to an investment house private equity, venture capitalist, there's all different words used for these types of companies. But in simple terms, the people who've got a load of money that want to deploy a load of money into something to make a load of money. That's the reality of how it works. So if somebody wants to put a load of money into Salford, and they're going to want a return, and rugby league doesn't make money, right? So the deal has to have other facets to it to make that work. Otherwise, a private equity company that sits in America, it's $1 billion organisation, isn't going to come and put 10 million quid into Salford and say, yeah, there's 10 million, thanks lads, and we'll have a 10% ownership of the club and we'll see you in 10 years. Because that's not how it works. That's how the world works. But what our job then is to create the opportunity. Yeah. And that's, again, kind of my commercial side of me in terms of how can I bring an opportunity that can create a return on investment? Because I actually believe there is a model out there where rugby league can make a return on investment. And it just needs to be presented in a particular way. And this is where I get really excited. It's why buzz about and what I get really motivated about. So I'd say, that's kind of what you'd expect to see from me. And secondly, that's not really widely known, but it's important we notice is that we also signed a contract with a lady called Denise Barrett-Baxendale, who is the former chief executive of Everton Football Club, who built their stadium, who has the former CFO on their board. And they're a sports consultancy business as well, based in the UK, that are owned by American company again. And Denise is one of the most impressive ladies I've ever had the privilege of engaging with, both on teams. And she comes to the table with experience of running a Premiership football club. So two sides to that. One is beyond the pitch. Please go ahead and look them up. Fascinating opportunities that they're looking at for us, but they're also helping us in way of guidance, because whilst it's sport, one of the things we were talking about was, is Premiership football outpricing the average fan nowadays, and how can we tap into Premiership football and offer a better product? And again, I don't want to sound like this big picture guy, and because it can sound really cheesy and shit, pardon the French, yeah. But what we are talking about is she's looking at lots of different community objectives that she achieved at Everton, different ways to look at learning disability opportunities for sponsors and fans to come in, which we had never even thought about before. So more importantly for Ryan, Ryan's got a lady there who's been there, done it, bought a t-shirt, to coin the phrase. So from an experience point of view, and by the way, for me too as well, because the one thing I want to say to everybody that I wasn't that sure about, but I'm definitely sure about now, is that making decisions in a rugby league club are nothing like making decisions because there's a public facing element to it. And also I'm responsible, as well as Ryan and the board, for this club and for the fans. We're custodians. We might own it on paper, but it's not like a business that I own over here with somebody else that I've got an objective and we've got a plan and we've got sales and we're going to make some money. It's about making sure we do the right thing. So when we make moves and when we do things, we've got to think about what we're presenting to how to work. So yeah, I'm really excited about the opportunities that I'm working on. I feel like we've settled down as a group now. We did a first board meeting when I was back at John Wilkinson's office, or El Presidento as I call him. But again, massive important thing that took place there to recognise John, and the fact that John was prepared to accept that to us was huge. I mean, another moment in my life I won't forget. But in that board meeting, we rolled out the 2026 plan. We reviewed the financial performance. We looked at implementing roles and responsibilities across the group. Now, again, some people might think, well, that's normal. Well, it is normal, but it hasn't been done before. So people need to know what their roles are and what their responsibilities are, because when something happens in the club, I, and you expect me as the leader, need to make sure that I can hold somebody accountable, good or bad. Yeah. So we've got some structure now, so it's settling down a little bit more. And obviously now we're looking forward into 2027. So, but finally, I'm really proud of what I've done so far, but I'm not ever about me. I'm proud of what this group's done, and what Ryan alluded to before in terms of where I feel we are. I feel like the Salford RLFC, in some ways, has portrayed itself better than quite a lot of Super League clubs are, from a social media perspective, from a transparency perspective, and that's just the start. It'll continue, but ultimately, let's be honest, guys, we don't want to go and watch Salford get whacked 60-0 every week, do we? Yeah, we want to win. Yeah, and Ryan will probably talk about that in a bit more detail later. So I hope that gives you kind of a good, broad understanding of what my role is and what people expect from me. But I will sit in the background. I will do a few of these podcasts. It's not my forte to stick my head above the parapet, but I felt that this is really important that Ryan and I come on, because the fans need to see the people behind the wheel.
Absolutely, they do, mate. And yeah, I think it's great that we've got the opportunity to do this and to get something out there that the fans can really engage with. I've got a question for you, actually, because you mentioned about your relationship with Derek Beaumont, and you talked about then, some of the things you're thinking around, things like match days and stuff like that. If we look at like the model that Lee have, I don't want to stray too far off here because we'll end up talking, Lee Leopards instead. But if you look at some of the stuff that they're doing around their match day, because they've made the match part of the experience rather than the experience. Do you think that's a model longer term that we'd want to explore?
100%. The best Super League club, best rugby league club for an experience, in my opinion, and it's not because Derek's my mate, because even if he was a mate and I didn't agree, I'd tell him that because we have that relationship. He's the blueprint, and not to steer away, that he's got people. I was at the league game before I left. I went, he invited me down, and obviously I went for some food beforehand. So I was there 2.5 hours before. There was thousands of people outside the ground, like 2,000-3,000 people, 2.5 hours before match kickoff. The pyrotechnics, the bands he's got on, but it's all investment, Matt. At the end of the day, it comes down to investment. But what's the investment done? I think Derek's got 7,500 members now, of a 12,000 stadium. Yeah, so what's that? 65% of his capacity is full for season ticket holders. Yeah, people hated his brand, the Leopards. What around Lee? Everywhere you go around Lee, leopard skin, leopard print. Yeah, so he's very brave to go out there. But and I'm really, really interested, and I'll be there in person to see how the Leopards go in Vegas this year, because I think they'll represent the UK game in some capacity. But yeah, I agree. It's something that we are looking into, elements of what they're doing, but certain things he does that we just simply can't afford. And we've got to remember we're in the Championship, not simply.
I just look forward to the days, mate, when you walk out like the ringmaster to the greatest show like Degsy did. So I'm looking forward to that, mate. I think take a leaf out of his book. I think, we all enjoy that.
I think Paul Hancock would be better at that, to be really honest. Yeah, he's got that showmanship. He like me for saying it, but I think Ryan will agree. Paul has that showmanship that more than anybody in the group.
Oh, fantastic, mate. So, right, we've talked about your role, MD and Ops. Should we talk about the rest of the board members and some of their roles?
Yeah. Look, we've obviously alluded to them, named them by names, but I think probably the easiest way is just to give you some very quick insight into how we've broken the board up now. And it wasn't where it was at the beginning, it was not where it is now, which is right, because, we all needed to sort of find our path and decide on who. And for me, it was always about who could bring most value to what area and that's his starting objective. So obviously, I'll go talk about Paul Hancock first. We joked about him before. But Paul was incredible at bringing money in in that short period of time. He arrived, I said earlier, turned up with 100 grand already committed, which was an unbelievable effort for him. So he was in the commercial side at the start and continued in that kind of role. But what was really clear, because of his son who plays rugby as well, is that he had a real passion for community, and where Paul's role is now, and what he's really really excelling in, is that community role. I mean, you know, you've seen the captains runs at the local amateur clubs, and to think that that's just not been done by the Salford Rugby League Club in any capacity for many years is ridiculous. And look at the uptake, and look at the comments, and just to take our squad and run there. So, and that was Paul. You know, Paul now works with the foundation directly with Paul Traynor. So you saw the takeover day recently. You know what? One of my proudest moments, that to see that many kids turn up and see all the XLRSs with PDSL team and learning disabilities and under six on the team. I wasn't there, but I get to see the game on a YouTube link, and I saw the pictures, the East Stand we've supported the foundation with some financial support on the flags and the T-shirts, and that has to be 100% where we start next season. You know, I want that East Stand to be a community stand. I want 5, 6, 7, 8, 900 kids in there every single game. Yeah. And that, I've got to say, having now spent some time with Paul Traynor, and the fact that the foundation, the club, I'll be honest, never really connected, I don't believe, previously. Now he's fully connected. It's fascinating. So Paul's in that area. So Paul found Community Foundation. Mason is very much in the sort of social media space, working with we've got an external agency, and a couple of other project areas. But Mason does quite a bit of travelling, so, and obviously he's got his own businesses as well. So, but he's really good. He's working on something in the background at the moment, which he didn't even tell me about. And he went, "Oh, like Mason comes in. Mason doesn't say a lot, but when Mason says something, generally most of the time it's really valuable. Or it's a oh." You stop and you go, like, he's been working on something just on his own. He coming, I've done this, and I was like, wow, that's great. Andy Ho and I, is your, for want of a better term, is our marketing director. Yeah. Now Andy and I go back probably 30 years. He said 25, I think, recently. And the classic scenario is that he's marketing and I'm sales. Yeah. Because the two have very different roles. And I think I've said before, people say, "Oh, you're in sales and marketing." Well, you can be, but not in my world. The two are very different roles, but the two work well together. Articulate, been very senior in some very big businesses, very organised. We work incredibly well together. He supports Marcel, he supports Ryan, but he's really the focal part of business plans, sponsorship deck, all your PR stuff that goes out, all the narrative that comes out, the comms piece that comes out. We're really fortunate for Andy to be on board. He's been a massive plus for the way that we've accelerated our comms piece, and that's great. You've got Marcel. How would you best describe Marcel? Bloody fantastic. Without her experience that she's brought to the table with the stadium, when I first met her when she was running the stadium, Paul will probably remember that. You both might remember it. And then obviously her experience in the club, whilst we definitely would not be where we were today without her input. She's not scared at all to put her comments forward. And make herself known. Probably sometimes a little bit too much, but we love her, and she deserves an incredible amount of applaud in terms of what she's done so far. The hours she works, she's just non-stop. She's relentless. I mean, she needs to have a break at some point, but probably not now. We're not finished, so maybe she have a week off at the end of the season. And then I remind her she needs to be back a week later. So you've got obviously Mason, Paul, and then obviously you've got the grand conductor here on the screen, which is Mr. Brierley. But and I'll kind of return serve what he's done. Yes, he's got experience as a CEO, but that's fine. And I've said before, you know what? When you take people on, I take people on. Better to take them on, in my view, with less experience, right attitude, right morals, right skill set, yeah, because you can coach that. And But what we should not be underestimated is how you've seen that playing group develop from the start to where it finished. Where it is at the moment, where it will finish, is Ryan and Dave in particular. But Ryan is, he's idea around. We spoke several times about the culture and the identity. And again, these are words sometimes that can get lost, but I actually really understand what he's talking about now. And and really what I keep telling you is we want the right people with the right behaviour and the right attitude, putting a Salford shirt on and doing what we expect anybody who puts a Salford shirt to put on, is go out there and give 110%. You might not be the best player in the league, you might not be a skillful player in the league. That's Ryan. And when we talk later about our aspirations for next season, we're in a really good spot. It was similarly for when we made the decision with Dave. Ryan has probably said publicly before, we interviewed a number of coaches in Australia, and in the end, Dave just kind of carried on in the background in what he was doing, and we were like, I was like, I rang Ryan. I remember the call. We have some of the calls we remember, and I goes, I think we've got to give Chewy the job, and he goes, I'm glad you've said that. He said because I think the same, and I agree. There was nobody better, and he was standing right in front of us. And it was an easy decision. So thanks, Chewy, because you made it a lot easier for us to not make a difficult decision. And we've got for some of the people in my businesses that come in. I've got an IT guy that does all the IT piece, and we've actually designed a CRM which we call Sponsor Match, which is because I have an AI business as well, so we're building stuff all day long. And I've got other marketing guys and design guys we can tap into as and when we do. So on the face of it, it looks like Ryan and Marcel are just employing a couple of guys behind him, but there's actually a stack of people behind us, all wanting to help when we need help. So I hope that gives you a bit of an insight into the big, but a really great bunch of people.
It does. No, yeah, it does, Mal. Thanks for that. And you said something that struck a chord with me through that, and it's something Ryan talks about a lot and probably will talk about as we move into his section in a minute around his role, is that, you talked about having people with the right behaviours and the right way of doing things over necessarily the in-depth knowledge of the what. And I think of it as like hard skills and soft skills, and it's easy or easier to teach someone something that's fact than to change a behaviour that doesn't match. If you've got 100%. The right behaviours, if you've got the right behaviours and skill set, you can learn anything and be airdropped into anything and learn about it. But if those behaviours aren't right, and we talk about good people being the right people, if that's not the case, they can have all the in-depth technical knowledge in the world, but if they don't fit from a cultural perspective, then
I agree.
Perfect. Ryan, let's move into to talk about your role. And so we've talked about the board there. We've talked about all the different roles that we've got going on within that. Let's just turn the spotlight straight to you, and let's get into your role as CEO and tell us how it's going.
A lot of learning, if I'm honest, a lot of learning. I think again, it's probably a broad aspect of everything, isn't it? I think I probably lend more weight to the football department. It's probably where I'm I guess more experienced and best at, and seeing a number of different cultures and teams in my time, I can kind of know what a good culture and a bad culture is. And it's funny, isn't it? Because every team. Every recruitment philosophy will be, get good people. Got to get good people first. I'm not sure many people believe it, and I'm not sure there's many teams out there who won't compromise on it either. I look at it and go, if we've turned down way better players than what we've got now in favour of good people. Fact. Way more talented people than we've got, because it's something I'm not willing to compromise on, because I think I've said this before, good players will win you a trophy, but a good culture will win you 10 trophies. And I don't ever want to compromise on being successful once. Because I don't see any benefit in being successful once. We're here for the long haul, and you look at the players we've got now. Is Sneyd going to be playing for us for the next 10 years? No, he's not. But there's a group of people who will be here for the next 10 years, me, Malc, etc., who we have to put things in place now and habit and talk about culture. And Malc's right, it's almost a bit of a buzzword at times. And what is it? And I believe it comes down to behavior and habits, and how good you can get them consistently. And to provide an example, and it's something what Malc mentioned at the start, and it literally just triggered when he said it at the start. He said he's got manners, and he says please and thank you, and it comes from his mum and dad. And funnily enough, I mentioned how me and Malc are aligned. Well, we released a player because he didn't shake the bus driver's hand. Simple as that. You should, and looking back now, could we have done with him? Yeah, probably. But I'm just not willing to compromise on it. And you know what? I'm used to taking a battering on social media. I've had it all my career. It never bothers me, and no comment has ever bothered me. One comment bugged me the other week, and it was someone put around. It was obviously a Salford fan, and he put Ryan, do you fancy signing some good players rather than good people? And I was like, wow. And you know what? The answer was no, because I'm not going to compromise on it. Because again, I'm trying to build a squad, a club, an identity, a culture. What will win us 10 trophies, not one. And that's always been our aim to get an identity and build culture. And I remember mentioning that the first board presentation I presented to Malc, and it was funny because him and Paul both rang me after it, and they was like fascinated with what I put to him. It was basically around the style of play. And I said, Salford fans have become expectant to a certain style of play. And bear in mind, Salford fans have never been expectant of results. We've been unsuccessful for years. So it's not the results what Salford fans are expectant of. I believe Salford fans expect a certain style of defence and a certain style of attack. I think when me and Malc spoke about finding a coach that reflected our fan base, what we meant was, I guess, was a defensive system which was aggressive, which was brave, which was tough. Again, reflects our fan base. We wanted an attacking philosophy which was exciting, different, and not boring, because Salford fans have become expectant to that. I think if you have a team that reflects the fan base, I feel like you're winning. I said, regardless of the result, I think you're winning because at least fans enjoy watching that team. So the culture and identity piece sits together in your playing style and your recruitment. And I mentioned previously the Halifax game, when we came back and won the game. Them events, them results, them situations don't happen to bad people, because at some point when we was 26 points down, someone would have said something and the rest of the group followed. It was probably Brad Dwyer. Brad Dwyer probably mentioned something. And at that point, the rest of the group followed. If one person in that group didn't follow, you don't get the result. Because I've been in them situations, and the teams I've been in, which has included bad people, I've never experienced a result like that. It's always been the ones where I've been in good culture with good people, where you actually all believe what one person's saying, and you follow. So I think for me around that is building a connection from your fan base, from your identity, from your coaching philosophy. If you can remain as connected as you possibly can, that I feel like that's probably the main part of my job in building that. I think Mal mentioned the community captain runs, and there's a bigger play at that, and what that play was to connect our fan base to actually our players, to make our fan base fall in love with our players and connect to our players. Because actually now when you're trying to support them on a match day, you can actually relate to them and what they're trying to do, and relate to how hard they're working. And I'm going to go back to the Barrow game, and Barrow versus Salford in June. Salford are 12th in the league, Barrow are third. In the grand scheme of things, is that a big game? No, it's not. It's not a big game. But when that full-time whistle went and I saw my boys crumble to their knees, I've never witnessed anything as powerful at that stadium. Being a player as well, obviously being a player there, I was generally in a successful team where we had great nights and great days. But when I saw the boys who I put together, who I love to pieces, crumble when the whistle went because they got beat by Barrow at home, that told me everything I needed to know about if I'd done the right thing or not. Because what was proven to me is that every person I'd recruited cared massively about Salford, and that for me was a massive positive. But I was devastated at the same time because I felt so sorry for them because they've tried so hard. And I went in the change rooms after the game just to make sure there was all okay. And they were devastated. They crumbled, and I just thought, I've been in teams who spend 2 million, £3 million, who care nowhere near as much as them group of boys did. Who some of them are just on pay as you play and small contracts, and that's when I knew we as a board we'd aligned, we'd got our identity right and our philosophy right and our culture right. We was aligned and connected, and they walked off, and the fans stood up and clapped them off. If you remember, they all stood up and clapped them off, and I thought, wow, we're a connected club here. We're connected, and that was really powerful for me because I felt the first time in 18 months we were connected as a club, the fans, players, staff. We were connected, and it's a word I use quite a bit in trying to connect. And I took the coaches out last week for a meal, and to sit there and actually not talk about rugby, about life and about general, I just thought, God, we've got some special people trying their hardest for us here. And back to the first board meeting, and when me and Malc took stock about what a special team we've got. It's no secret that has been passed down into the playing squad, because this club's accelerating very quickly, and likewise, I know we're gonna have to add more quality. I get that, but I just feel like I'm always gonna stay on that mantra of good players will win you one trophy, whereas a good culture will win you 10. And my dream, I've got to have this dream as the leader of this club, is to win silverware. I need to win trophies. I've got to have that dream. I've got to have that passion. We can't sit here and survive. We can't stay stagnant. Me and Malc had the conversation around the previous coach, and ultimately we wasn't improving. We were stood still. We were stagnant, and we had to move forward. And now we're comfortable with the coach we've got now, in regards to an identity, a philosophy, a system where me and Malc speak and we understand what we're trying to do. It looks similar now every week. It looks like we've got an identity. It reflects our fan base. So that, for me, I probably take biggest pride in creating that identity, culture, philosophy, whatever you call it. But ultimately is around, it's dead funny. I know I mentioned at the first fans forum, sorry, not first fans, first player meeting. I said, whenever you see Shirley and Alan Bradshaw, you hug Shirley and you give Alan, you shake Alan's hand. And for me, it was massively important, that, because you talk about two people who sacrificed so much. And it's hilarious now, because people, like, after games, our players will walk past Shirley's table and quickly turn around and go and hug her before they talk to their mum and dad. But I love that, because it shows they're remembering, they're learning, they're understanding how important that sort of stuff is. And on the backside of it is that now agents want to talk to us, players want to talk to us, players want to be now part of us. So we now got more power, and ultimately everyone talks about how well we look after people, how well we treat people. One thing what Malc backed me on at the start was, I wanted all our players to have private medical insurance, because no one in the championship has it. And I said to him, if we're not going to be paying our players a lot, can we make sure we look after them the right way? all the players are gobsmacked with how much with the level of treatment they get when they get scans and surgeries. We've just had Jake Spedding in for his bicep surgery, and just to give you an insight of how Malc reacts to stuff like this, I sent Malc a voice note about so Jake Spedding tore his bicep tendon, and with tendons you get it's a little bit tricky. You've got to get it fixed really quickly, because the tendon can spiral up your arm, recoil, so you need it done quickly. I said, Malc said, we need $7,000 ASAP. So he's had his surgery today. He was in today, had his surgery today. I said, because it's really dangerous when you start messing around with tendons and stuff. He went, yeah, no worries. And he emailed Joanna, our bookkeeper, said, pay, approved, pay immediately. Done. No questions asked. Whereas in other clubs, that would have been World War III. I'm telling you now, I've been there, World War III, and the likelihood of it, you would never have got it. And Jake Spedding's family emailed me this morning and said, "Can I thank you and the board so much for what you've done for?" And I thought, wow, that is so powerful, but something so small. And I know in rugby league circles that trickles down. I was in a meeting with an agent a couple of days ago about one of his players who we want to sign, and he said, "Ryan, I'll be honest, the only reason he wants to sign for you because he knows how much the club looks after its players, and he's not had that." And I thought, God, like again, culture, philosophy, identity, whichever way you want to call it, it becomes weirdly, isn't it? It's mad how much luck you can create and how much want, or how much what's the right word I'm trying to look for, how much you can achieve by just being good people. As simple as that. And that's why, back to the Twitter comment, no, I won't compromise on being on good people. So unfortunately, that's the way I am. That's the way I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it my way. And if it fails, I'll always be the first person to put my hand up and go, I got it wrong. But I think, I'm not sure you can go wrong with 17 good people who care so much about playing for Salford. Because I'll take that every day of the week.
Yeah, there's more examples. You know, you talked about Jake Spedding then, but Matty Ross was in a similar position when he did his ankle and that was the Halifax game, the home one, wasn't it? Let's not talk about that because I'm still filthy we didn't win that game. And Paul winds me up about it all the time, the one that got away. Yeah, I know, mate. I know. I'm still filthy about it, even because we beat him away. Like, it's not made it any better. But when Matty got injured, he was playing at fullback, but the extent of his injury, I think, was a bit similar, wasn't it? But obviously to his leg, where if it wasn't done soon, there was a danger that it sort of might fuse a little bit wrong and stuff like that. But the club did exactly the same thing then, I think, as well, right?
Yeah, we had him in for surgery 2 days later. And what we did with Matty Ross, in particular, without don't want to get too far in the detail, and I guess make this a show around how good Salford are. But what to give you some context on Matty Ross, he was on Pay As You Play, and I'm sure he won't mind me saying he has a job as well. He has a job which he couldn't do because he was injured. So we actually put him on a small contract for the rest of the year to cover his losses of not being able to work. And look, it was minimal, but alongside that, with his insurance, he could get quite close to what he was getting. And that for me was one of my proudest moments, because I guarantee you that's never been done before in rugby league.
No.
Never in rugby league someone gets injured, breaks their leg, and you get given a pay rise. Never happens. And there's elements of it where you can't be reckless, and I understand that from a figures point of view. But when you talk about a lad who'd played every game for us, played every position for us, came from amateur, broke his leg trying to save a try, trying to stop the ball being grounded. For us to go, unlucky Matty, you're off work, but let us know when you're back fit. That would have been criminal, and just not the right thing to do, and by the player. So obviously there's numerous examples and things that are really important, but I've never seen a club look after players like we do. But likewise, as you can imagine, where our budget lies, we are overachieving right now with the budget we have in regards to playing budget. And I'm going to put a lot of it down to is the fact that they're happy, for one, they get looked after, and they care. The best compliment I get from the players, I always check in with the players. I reckon I check in with 6, 7 of the players every week, different ones, and I just say, how you doing? Everything okay? And the best compliment, what always comes back, like every player, they go, Ryan, I have never enjoyed my rugby so much. Jack Bibby texted me last week, said, just quick one, can't tell you how much I'm enjoying my rugby. And clearly you can see. So whatever you don't get in regards paying a bit more for different players, you get way more back by someone enjoying the rugby, how powerful that is, how much they're enjoying themselves, and that should clearly show in the performances. But back to the nuts and bolts of it, we're still way off. We're still way off, and we know that.
That's fine, and we'll get there. I just want to nip back. Matty Ross, friend of the show, been on here. The lads call him Paul at training, so we always have a bit of sport with him as well. Yeah, you love it, don't you, Paul? Paul, I'm actually going to come to you and going to bring you in on something that we've talked about around.
I've just clicked what you're on about. I just clicked Paul.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
There was a really nice picture, right? And I always refer to this.
God,
and there was
a
picture of you two, wasn't there? And you put it on your social media, Paul. And the irony was, it was Father's Day as well, and it just looked like lad and dad stood next to each other. It were absolutely brilliant.
That's brilliant.
It's when I had short hair. My hair's grown a bit since, but when I've got short hair, yeah, I do look like him. Not his dad, his brother.
Oh yeah, sorry, he's much older brother. I mean, his older brother. Mate,
oh
yeah.
God.
I was going to bring you in though, Paul, because Ryan talks a lot about respect, and
yeah.
He mentioned about shaking the hand of Alan and hugging Shirley when the players see him and stuff like that. And I wanted to talk about the closeness of us as fans to the players. And obviously, we're probably a little bit closer than most, because I was thinking about when we're waiting for interviews after the games, and there's not really a player who walks past without coming and shaking our hands. And, we're not actively talking to them for interviews every week, but we've built some relationships up. And people, I guess we consider friends at this point, people I speak to probably a few times a week who show us the respect because, we're trying to give them a bit of a platform and stuff like that. But, I wanted to come to you, Paul, and talk about, you've been around here for a long time, supporting the club for a long time. Have you ever felt as close to a playing group as you do this season? Because I certainly don't.
No. Obviously, I've only done sort of interviews and that for 10 years. I've watched the club for nearly 40, but you never used to get that close. The only time you used to see players was like at the Christmas do, and you'd meet Tex Evans and Gibbo and people like that. It's a bit different now, isn't it? But yeah, when Watto was the coach, I interviewed Watto. I had a great relationship with him and the players. But the players were different then. I thought they were sort of up there, the players, because they were bigger names, weren't they, and stuff like that. This season, the players to me have felt like my family. Going to games, it's been like my little brother out there or whatever. And I thought, a lot of the away games we've struggled. We've got stuff that Barrow and Workington and that, but I've enjoyed it because they've been great. And even though they're getting beat, I want them to do well, because they're my family, they're my team. So, and when we've had them on the podcast, I mean, I got emotional a few times. Like when Joe Hartley was on, I was nearly in tears because I just connect with them. Because I try and live my life like that with good manners, good morals. I like to think I'm quite a respectful guy and that. And every player we've had on, we've done 17 shows, haven't we, Matt? Is it 17 with the players?
17 interviews, I think.
Every single player we've had on, me and you stay on, have a little debrief and a little chat with each other. And every single week, me and you have said, wow, how good were his manners? How good was how he spoke to us with so much respect, and they're just great. You can't fail to not like them. And like on Sunday, me and you stood in the car park, weren't we, talking to the players after the game? It was like we'd known them for years, and that. And it's I think what Ryan's done with the players, I think, has been fantastic. Loads of people have said that to me when they've heard the interviews, and they said, "Wow, you really connect with them players, don't you?" And it's like you're the best mate, and that. And I love it. I love speaking to him, and Ryan's absolutely bang on. I said it. My dad says it as well. You're better off having better people with better attitudes and manners and that, rather than going for a star name who's got an ego and he's this, that, and the other. I think you're better off every single time. Give it me every single time. But the lads we've got there are fantastic, and I can't sing the praises highly enough.
it's about mutual respect, and you've hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
When we had Joe Hartley on this show and we talked to him about his background and the plastering business, and the first thing I said to him when we ended the show was, we'll do you a bit of a promo on the episodes. And what we do every episode is we lead in with the J Hartley plastering, and we're doing the same for Danny Lynch as well after his appearance on the show. And it's about that mutual respect. Lads are giving up their time to us on a Monday night to come and record with us. So the least we can do for the hits that we get out there on social media in terms of like the listens and the watches of the episodes is help them to promote their businesses for free. We don't change money on it, but we just do it because we've got a relationship with these players, and we just help them try and promote their businesses via the work that we do. And I think it comes back to that good people aspect and that mutual respect aspect of it as well, I think, doesn't it?
Yeah, of course.
You know what? Yeah, I mean, I love listening to this. I mean, I've been silent because it's not
brilliant. I was the same. It was class.
Yeah.
That yeah, brilliant.
It makes me proud, but to hear all of these things, but it's all the same things that we've talked about, isn't it? That do all the small things really well. Yeah, just do the basics right. Yeah, because what you get then is you layer a foundation of really good things to build upon, and then you can sprinkle a bit of fairy dust on the top now and again. Yeah, and that's where we're at, and I think we've excelled. But from the relationships, whether it be you guys, whether it be any fan, I'm not, I'm gutted I'm not there every game. It is, and I can't always watch every game because it's a midnight kickoff. A midnight kickoff for me on a Monday night, and I've got meetings on a Monday morning. So, but I remember when Matty broke his leg, because it's one of the games I watched, and I saw it, and I text Ryan after and said, "Is he all right?" Yeah, and I said, "Send me his number," because I had to speak to him to make sure the lad was all right. And then, obviously it was 4 a.m. He was in A&E, so I just dropped him a couple of messages and said, "Mate, we'll make sure we look after you," because how he broke his leg was very sad, but it epitomised somebody that we wanted at that club. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? The play was terrible, and the outcome was not the worst outcome. But his attitude that he displayed to try and say the tackle was unbelievable. So I'm really glad to hear all these things that you say. It's really nice to hear it as well.
No, good. No, we appreciate that. And again, it comes back to mutual respect, doesn't it? So, Ryan, let's just come back to you for a minute and let's talk about, because you mentioned then, given where we are now, we're exceeding where we thought we were going to be. So, when we started the season, obviously the expectation in January is get a team for Oldham. And then as we move through, the expectation becomes you've got to beat Swinton. But given where we are in the season and the points we're sat on now and being in touching distance of the playoffs, because I don't think any Salford fan would have believed you at the start of the season if you'd have said, we'll be in touching distance of the playoffs with 4 games left to go. Like, how far exceeded of expectations have we been this season?
My words to Malc and the board, and I know I'm going to get into a bit of the ambition stuff when Malc talks commercial as well at the end. So I'll save a lot of the I guess the emotional side for that. The realistic line I said to Malc is, I don't think we're going to win a game. That's what I said to him. I don't think we'll win a game. And that was down to player availability. There were no players.
Like, it was dry, the pool, wasn't it?
They were gone.
Yeah.
People thought it was a budget thing, and the budget was there. There was just nothing to spend it on. So you're waiting for players to kind of fall. You Jack Bibbies and obviously I know Brad Dwyer was at the end, but Brad Dwyer was so lucky to get just a random player who was still on show. Sam Bower in halfway through, Danny Lynch halfway through, Jack Holmes halfway through. Kieran Dixon fell out from Old. Also came on loan for a game, fell out. So, of course, the goalposts changed, but it was never about actual results or expecting the results of win how many games. We just wanted to see an improvement, and if we would have had the team at the start and they would have been improving every week, we wouldn't have made a change like coaching staff, and we would have been okay with that because we knew we probably wasn't going to win a game. But obviously, when you improve from a coaching aspect and then a recruitment aspect, obviously you win games. But we've never, even now, and Malc will back me up, we've still never said, right, let's aim for these amount of wins. Me and Malc don't really get involved in the actual promising of wins or what you think. We have an opinion on what might happen, but we don't base any assumptions on winning and losing. It was actually always been about improving and getting the right people in and structure. So exceeded it beyond wildest dreams to be sat where we are. Me and Matt were pissing ourselves a few weeks ago when the chance of being the playoffs. Like, how's this happened? It just crept up on us. We didn't even know how close we were. I'll be honest, I'm not even checked the league table until me and Mal actually spoke about it. I thought, shit, we actually are really close. Again, I don't know how it's going to end up now with a couple of tougher games, and I know a few teams got a couple of games in hand and us, so God knows when. Honestly, either way, we're happy. I think we've exceeded plenty of expectations, but that was a realistic approach. Is that I don't think we're going to win a game. And Paul Hancock looks at me like I've got three heads. But Paul's very different to Mal. Paul is really emotional from a fan point of view and can't. And you could put a bin bag as our kit, and as long as it had a Salford badge on, Paul would be happy. He's like, yeah, it's fine, that's brilliant, good to go. Because he's just so emotional and passionate. But the realistic element of it was I had to look Malc in the eye, and I was scared because I'm like, I know this league inside out. The Championship's a tough, horrible league, and I knew what other clubs are spending. The main club who was going they're spending 2 million. The next clubs behind that, they're at 900, 800 grand, 600 grand. The team we're going to play at the weekend, 550. Like, we're nowhere near that. We're nowhere near it. And to even your Sheffield over 500, Barrow 600, we should be nowhere near them. Nowhere near them in reality. And that's where what I'm talking about, where you don't have to spend that amount. If you can replace it with goodwill and people who care and people who look out and get more value out of them sort of scenarios, good coaching, good philosophies, good systems, everyone on the same page, buying, you can replace a lot of money with that. But in regards to expectations, I genuinely didn't think we would win a game.
And I don't think you did, Paul, did you, when we came away from Barrow? Because although that was a better performance, wasn't it? And I think we looked a long way away, didn't we? And, we then went into that Hunslet game and sort of won it from nowhere, really. Like, I looked at that game and thought, it's more of a test of us in terms of like the barometer of where we are. But yeah, I mean, yeah, that'll live with me for a long time. We've said in terms of like the moments through the season, Garmo running towards the south stand in that Hunslet game's one that'll stay with me for a long time.
The Workington game for me and Malc was a real low point.
Yep.
A real low point for us. I've always been fairly realistic and I kind of understood where we're at. But even the Workington game was a real shock for me. A real shock, and I'm pretty sure, Malc, we made the decision not long after that.
Yeah, I mean,
me and you had that rough call, didn't we, on the morning? Yeah. We both knew. We both knew.
Yeah. We always have a call, obviously. Either Ryan will leave me a voice note after the game or whatever, with just some general feedback. But I always really had a big belief in the loan system, and that particular game, as Ryan will confirm, we had some dispensations. So we had 7 loan players. The prop from Saints, who's at NRL. We had a really strong loan sets, and I said to Ryan before he went, what do you think? He went, no, I think we'll do them. And I woke up at the middle of the night and we were like 40 down at half time, and I literally put my phone down at 3 o'clock in the morning. What a stupid time it was like that, and I couldn't sleep then. And then spoke at the end. I think obviously Ryan couldn't speak very well because he's with people, and then I just said, no. We both agreed. I said we have to make a change. That's not acceptable, and that's not where we want to go. And as difficult as the change was, it was the right decision for us to do it. And I know it's again, I listened to the comments around the players and the results and the games and stuff. Yeah, I think I was asked the question of the fans for when we went back in Super League, 6 days after we were on the club, and they were like, yeah, next week. No, I don't. Shirley, talk about Shirley. Shirley said, "Mal, man, if we don't win a game this season, I can't accept that. I never will." Yeah. And so throughout the season, as I've been learning more about how the playing squad works and operates, and how Ryan operates, and kind of realised the loan system, will be used, but going forward, we need to stick with our group, and they need to have the playing. When obviously, Halifax had George Whitby in there, who was instrumental in the win, but that's a special player, special signing, for one game. But he didn't win that game. He was part of the reason we won that game, but it was what Ryan said. And so I think where we are now is a fascinating getting towards the end of the season. But we've got a couple, London, Widnes, Oldham, and then we've got that small derby game that there'll be no pressure on.
Yeah, yeah.
So we might have we might have a lone player or two lined up for that game. Leave it at
that. Brilliant. Let's move on then, and let's talk about some of the events that have happened really recently. And I guess we're kind of looking now. We are looking into the future now. But before we do that, let's go back to the past rather than back to the future and talk about last weekend. This is going out on Monday, so it's a week and a bit ago. So there was a big lead up and an announcement touted for the game versus the London Broncos. And there was a lot of speculation, and some people hit the nail right on the head when they said it would be the signing of Marc Sneyd. So I figured on here, it'd be good for us to get into a bit of detail around that. So Ryan, I guess back to you on this, talk to us about that deal, how it came about, and I've got a second question, but I'll hold on to it for the time being.
Actually, Malc was heavily involved in regards the method and the motive behind it. We actually sat around our first board meeting, and Malc questioned me and challenged me on who is the one player who we can almost hang our hat on as a marquee player, who, one, improves our team dramatically, but for two, again, because I know we're going to get onto this point back in the podcast, it was commercially viable for us. And I looked at it, and straight away I knew there's only one player who this works with. Well, and as realistic as it could have been. I knew he was out of contract, and I knew in this league, a couple of names got thrown out, right? And for example, Callum Watkins, but Callum Watkins is relied on to make 50 tackles a game, and I'm not sure how long Callum can hold up doing that every week. And likewise, Callum Watkins doesn't kick goals, and sponsors want their name read out more times than anyone else. So there's only one person who does that, and that's Marc Sneyd. But ultimately, I knew he wasn't happy. I knew he wasn't happy where I guess what was happening there, in the direction Warrington were going in. I felt like it would reinstate or reinforce a lot of hope for fans to see Marc Sneyd sign. I think it was a real statement of intent, for one. I think the level of belief of one day being back to where we belong, Super League. I genuinely, after all them things added up, it was one player. It was one player, and as a board, we decided that was the player we were going to go after. I met Sneedy a couple of times, and I know where the rumor came from, because a whole FC fan was in the services when I met him, and he said, "I thought he was coming to us," and it was hilarious the amount of deflection me and Malc had to do on this. Every fan asked me, and I was like, "Nah, we can't afford him. Can't afford him. Nah, nowhere near, nowhere near." I had journalists ring me, and hilarious. I don't know if you saw the report about Bradford being a done deal. A journalist rang me, and I said, "Yeah, it's time for Bradford." So because we couldn't have this leak out, we couldn't. We tried to protect this as much as we could because, as well, we're trying to make a bigger buzz. We're trying to do things differently. We're trying to make things better and bigger. So yeah, as a collective, we decided he was the one. I'll be honest, negotiations were probably the easiest negotiations I've ever done. There's a lot of pressure on it because I know how much we needed it to happen. But in regards to Sneyd, it's very simple. And what Sneyd had 3 offers from Super League on way more money than what we're paying him. 2 things. He loves Salford, first and foremost. Secondly, he wants to play rugby. He said he's at an age where he's not got long left. He wants to play every week, every game. And the 3 other options in Super League wasn't offering him that. More of a mentor, number 3 type role. So that was how it came about. He actually signed when Malc was over. I remember showing Malc the contract it was in our office, wasn't it, Malc? I remember showing you in our office. And we kept it from me and you, didn't we, Malc, for quite a while. It was only me and you, weren't they? Yeah.
2.5 weeks.
Yeah.
Not because we don't trust our board members, but we just wanted to try and get this process of announcement right. As Ryan says, create the buzz. And I just want to go back to the point that Ryan said at the board meeting, right? And we're going to kind of go and talk about it, but he was the only player. You know, I love Callum, by the way. I really love Callum, and he would have been another player that we probably would have gone after. But you know, I think Callum's now taking I think like Callum lives over. His family have moved over towards Leeds anyway. B, I think he's taking a job with the Rhinos now. So I'm not sure whether Callum would even want to come across.
He suits better at Leeds with what he's got there, doesn't it? Anyway,
yeah. But I'll be honest. You know, fantastic achievement by Ryan to nail the deal with Sneyd. And when he rang me up, I was like, "You better not be kidding me," because I was until have it happen while I was back as well for the month of May. Was great. And then we were talking about when we actually announced it as well, and because we weren't going to announce it until the end of the season, the start of the season, selling of season tickets for obvious reasons.
Yeah,
I'll come on to that one, but I think it's a huge statement of intent for us, statement of intent, and I think the benefits are there to be seen. There's no guarantee. One player doesn't win leagues, as Ryan said, but I think he'll put a stamp on that championship next year. I'm really, really confident he will.
It's really interesting. You answered the second part of my question, which was around the statement of intent then. And I'm going to flip forward a question because the 2 link together. But as we record this, the news broke earlier on that Brad Dwyer signed a contract extension into next season. That spine going into next season is looking a hell of a lot healthier than it is at the moment. Like, you know, if you think, I was talking to someone before and sort of playing out like what that spine could look like. There's a few different permutations for it, but you know, it's a spine you can build a team around over the next couple of years. That isn't it?
Yeah. And you know what? And I know we've referenced the Barrow and the Sheffield game just recently. If Marc Sneyd's in that team, we win the game comfortably.
Yeah,
comfortably win the game. And guess what? We're comfortably in the playoffs. And that should add in one. And look, again, we're not that fussed about it this year, but next year we are. And it just shows what powerful culture can create with a bit of what Malc said, a bit of fairy dust on top of it. I think you're right in regards to statement of intent and what Sneyd is on the field. But you know what I'm actually most excited about, and it's so hard this because naturally you want results straight away. But Riley Johnson's 17, Lewis Pilling's 18, Toby Hughes is 22, 21, 22? 22. So I'll go, wow, what level or acceleration of development are them halfbacks going to have under, let's be honest, one of the best halfbacks in Super League for the last decade. I don't think they could get a better tutor. Toby, and this is what I love, and this is how I know I've got the right people. Toby messages me the day before we announced the Sneedy deal. And bear in mind, Toby knows because Toby works for the RFL. So Toby knew we'd signed him.
Of course.
Right? Yeah, Toby knew we'd signed him. Toby says to me, he says, Ryan, he went, if you want to sacrifice my shirt number for the game tomorrow, I'll wear number 6 tomorrow and you can unveil Sneedy number 7 for 2027. I just went, Toby, shut up. The squad numbers are submitted. You can't change it like that. But he saw the value. He saw the value in announcing that, and he cannot wait to play with Sneedy. Text me could not believe when the rumours came out about him going to Bradford. God knows where they came from. He said he texted me, Toby, saying, "Please don't let him go to Bradford. Please don't." Let him. So you've actually got players in our team who actually wanted to play. When he sat, it's funny, you know about Brad Dwyer. When Sneedy signed his contract and we told the coaching staff, Brad went, shit, I best sign my contract then, Anna, because he had his contract in his inbox and he hadn't signed it. So he literally went on his phone and signed it straight away for him. But that's the impact he has, right? When you sign someone like that, because you see the journey that they're going on. And I've never had as many agents and players message me on the back of it. So it just shows the impact and you're right, the statement of intent. But not only I know he guarantees us wins next year. I've been in the dressing room with him. I know what he does. And that's why I was so confident in presenting this to Malc and the board, how I knew he was the right person for this. Because there's certain players who, on a rugby league field, when it gets tough, and when the game's in the balance, don't really want the ball. I know that for a fact. He's the complete opposite. He would rather win a game 7-6 than 50-0, and he'll kick the drop goal. He's that confident, that assured. And I'm also going to go, and I know he won't mind me saying it, arrogant to wanting to be the main man. And by the way, he is, and we're not scared of saying it. He is our main man, and he knows that, and that's where he's at his best. That's why we're so confident in delivering that. But other than his on-field performances, God, I'm excited what he can do for Toby and Lewis and Riley. That's going to be a real special area of growth and observation. What I'm going to have from the outside, because I know Sneedy loves that element of being a mentor. I can't wait to see the improvement. I know he's a player who makes people around him better. I know he does. He's almost like another on-field coach essentially with Brad. So look, we've hit the jackpot. We have with him. We've nailed it. Really, really proud moment for me as a CEO to give a friend what I believe he deserves in regards finishing off at the club he loves to pieces, finish off at a club that the club actually loves him. But as we get onto the commercial side of it, I believe he's the person to lead us into a bit of silver as well.
We spoke to Riley Johnson, didn't we, Paul, after the game on Sunday? We didn't interview him, we just spoke to him outside. And he was buzzing at the prospect next season of training alongside Marc, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. And he's another top young lad, isn't he? Good family around him and that. And I think we need to mention Toby Hughes the other week when Riley came off the bench. I think this is something you clocked, didn't we? Toby. Give him a little pep talk, then he come on.
It's my favourite picture from the year that them two hugging each other as they went on. I was crying my eyes out.
I thought it was a touch of class that from Toby to do that. So because we said, didn't we? Toby's a relatively young man himself, but for him to do that for another young lad, it just shows you that connection once again, doesn't it? So you could keep talking about these stories, couldn't you? But that playing group's pretty special. I've seen a lot of playing groups at Salford, but that one that we've got at the moment is really special. And I've said it to my dad a few times. Yeah, the players have limited abilities in there, but I think the Salford supporters, though, I think we're different to other supporters. I can think of a well-known club in Super League at the moment that have won a lot of trophies, but they're on the coach's case or on the player's case. At Salford, I don't think you get on the player's case. If a player has a bad game at Salford, you don't say sack him or get rid of him. he's your player, he's your family. You want him to do well. It's like, encourage them to do well. Same with the coach and things like that. So I think that's the culture of supporters you've got at Salford, and the players will buy into that as well. So I think like you've been saying all through the podcast, it all comes hand in hand. And I feel from where we were 12 months ago, it's the change has been immense. From thinking I was going to lose my club 12 months ago and not be able to sleep, and I mean, it's probably not as bad as you, Brian, because it's your job, wasn't it? But as a supporter, I was scared to death. And this season, even losing matches doesn't really bother me because I'm there and I can see something happening every single week. You just spoke about the Workington game there. That's probably the lowest point I've ever had as a Salford supporter, the Workington game. But I came away from it thinking it's going to get better though, because I can see it's going to get better. I can trust it. So I know I've gone off on a bit of a tangent there, but just something I just wanted to add in.
Oh, all good, mate. All good. The tangents are made to go off on this show, mate. You know that. We never stay on one tangent. So looking forward to next season then, from a playing perspective, obviously there's still deals to be done in terms of the current playing group, and that's obviously all going on in the background at the moment. You mentioned 7 or 8 players previously for next season. I guess 2 questions on that. Do we expect much more in terms of deals to be done outside of that 7 or 8 players? And the second part is, was Sneyd one of those, or is it still 7 or 8 and Marc Sneyd?
No, Sneyd was one of them. Sneyd was
Right,
one of them. And I guess I can't figure out when I said it, but around the 7 or 8, there's a couple of renewals in there as well for players.
Okay.
For example, Brad Dwyer. I guess at the time, but Brad only signed it. Oh God. A week and a half ago, so we didn't know if Brad were going to stay, so that's one we wanted to get done. That's also a renewal. We've got a couple of renewals what we need to mention. We've got a couple of players from other clubs who we need to mention, but we can't because they're still contracted to other clubs, and there's a couple of championship players in there who were a couple of them playing in the 1895 Cup final as well. So we didn't want to announce it before their big game. It's not fair. There's not the right way to do it. So we've got a bit of that, but then it'll probably go hand in hand with the commercial stuff, what Malc will talk about in regards that we want to pull the trigger on a couple more, but we just need to know how much support we're going to get from different avenues. So that's the answer to that question. But also when we touch on that commercial chat with Malc around what we need and the realistic needs to get to them levels, I'll jump in again on that sort of stuff.
I guess just one final question from a playing perspective then, and what Malc's about to tell us will be the things that support building towards that. Have you got your eye particularly anywhere next season in terms of the table? Just give us a range if you don't want to tell us exactly where. First,
I know what I want. I know what I want to happen. I think it'll probably lead nicely into Malc's chat around. Look, London are a unique situation. They spend the most. They'll win the league. They'll finish top. Like that's. I don't think. I think the championship is a bit misleading. I think in Super League, I guess in most sport, whoever spends the most win, right? But I think the championship is a flawed system where a lot of teams are overpaying players as well. So it doesn't necessarily mean you've got the best team as long as take London out of it. If you take London out of it, I actually don't know who would win the league, right? But I'll probably throw some at you. It probably wouldn't be the team who would spend the most money after London. So I don't think it works.
I think it's Doncaster, isn't it? About 90,000 that Doncaster spent.
Exactly. So and I'm looking at going, well, I know Oldham beat them, and I know a couple of other clubs beat them. So I look at it and go, as I said this to Matt, I know we don't need a lot, but we need more with what we've got now. So I'll let Malc chip into that, because again, it's quite hard to predict when we don't know the level of support we're about to, because like what Malc have just signed a sponsorship deck off. So the more support you get, the more triggers we can pull on certain individuals. And that's just reality. And Malc said before, we don't want to get into the boring. We need more money. We need season tickets. We need more sponsorship. but he's going to give you the blunt truth of it now. That is that we do, right? We do. And then obviously after Malc probably says that, I'll jump on the back of it and give you what I want from a CEO point of view of what I want this club to achieve. And Malc will probably tell me to calm down a little bit, and then that's how it'll end.
No, that's good. Well, let's focus on that then. So let's focus onto the non-playing side then for a minute. And I think we talked just a bit briefly off air about this before, but what does readiness look like for next season, and what activities are going on now, to sort of get us into that position of readiness for next season?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to probably just firstly try and articulate the rugby league business model, because it's important, right? And it doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be complicated. It's really simple. There's 4 main revenue streams that clubs have, and 2 predominantly driving ones, which is obviously firstly, which is your corporate sponsorship, which is not just people with badges on the shirt, through to people who sponsor players, through to people who come and have a table, etc. And then you've got, outside of that, you've got your season ticket revenue. And then next below that would be your match day ticket revenue. And then below that is your merchandise. Now, when we're budgeting for next year, which I've got a call tonight, your morning with Andy to go through the 2027 budget, because Ryan's asking me to confirm the playing budget. You have to start by going, okay, so what did we do last year? Yeah, this season, because obviously it's a bit of an argument. We didn't start selling because we took the club in January. We sold 1,763 season tickets, which surpassed our original budget target of 1,500. Commercially, we probably did about 220k in revenue, but some of that was owners' money as well. But with 3 weeks to sell asset, shirt sponsorship was a complete mismatch, and we were fortunate for Devo to come through what they did and how they helped out. So, will we sell more? Yeah, I'm sure we will. The sponsorship deck is now ready for literally just come through while we're on this show to go out. But when you put that together, there's a set of basic maths, which is I sell that amount of season tickets, I sell the same amount of commercial sponsorship, and I do the same match day tickets, merchandise. That only gives Ryan the same playing budget that he's got now. And we want to double the playing budget for next year. And I don't want to say, we want to go from roughly 150 up to 300,000. I don't mind telling you that 300,000, because that's what we believe is a spend limit that will give us a squad that will compete, that Ryan will talk about in a minute. But if 1,763 Salford supporters don't turn up and buy season tickets again, and we sell 1,500, it's a problem. But you have to make these decisions now. And because Ryan has to sign the players now to make sure we've got the squad that's ready to go live in January next year. You have to make the decision on corporate sponsorship. So I'm really confident on the corporate sponsorship that will deliver a bigger result. I've spoke earlier about these bigger opportunities, but right here, right now, they're just in the background. And I'm confident something will drop, but I'm not relying on any of it. There's nothing in the budget for it whatsoever. Yeah, there'll be the fairy dust. The season tickets, again, we've all heard this. We need Salford fans to come back in their droves. You've only ever sold 2,500 season tickets in Super League. Never mind, and we're in the Championship. Yeah. So, but if we've got a winning side and people are enjoying what they're hearing and what they're seeing and the experience that you alluded to before, Matt, which let's be honest, we've not done much outside because we can't afford to. And it all comes back down to numbers. It really is just down to the end of the simplicity of we need more season tickets, we need more commercial sponsorships. But what we're trying to do this year is so we will have a payment option available for season tickets. We will launch in October, not November and December. We will have the training kit and the home replica shirt ready to sell at the same time as when season tickets. There'll be a discount if you buy a season ticket up front for a match day, for a shirt or some leisure wear or whatever aspects on it. We are considering looking at the Founders Club and how that's currently structured and to create more value, so I can put more stuff out there, because in the past it's just the same, pardon the French, same shit, different day, right? And that's not what we want. and it's not who we are. And I think we've already tried to show that on many occasions. But we ultimately, Ryan will go, I need the 300k. Okay, and we'll grant it because there's some players we have to sign now. We can't wait. They'll be gone. They'll be re-signed or they'll be signed to another club. So it's really important, as I say, that you can't say it in other way, but Salford supporters need to get behind the club. And I know it's been said, and I hate saying it because it just feels like somebody else saying the same thing. But what I would hope that the belief that Salford supporters have now is that they see what this group did in a very short space of time. We all wanted to save our club, and we did. And then we've not just saved our club and sat in the background. We've worked tirelessly to off the field and on the field to try and create a positive environment across all aspects, with the transparency and openness. That's the most frequent comment I get on social or from anybody ringing me is they've never, ever, ever heard or seen this club be as open and transparent as they have in the past. And that's the norm, and it'll continue like that. You know, that is definitely something that, so, you know, next year, can we get 2,000 season tickets? Yeah, because let me just tell you one of the problem. I don't know how the grading system is going to work, but if you remember this year, we got graded as if we finished 15th, and we got graded against bigger sides, which is bigger sides, in theory, bring bigger away fans, and that's not always the case. If we get graded differently this year, and I don't know how that's going to work, it's quite possible that the away support that we get will be vastly reduced from the clubs that we're playing. So we might have a better chance of winning, but the revenue will drop. So the average match day tickets was 713 in the budget. We superseded it. We took out the Oldham game, 5,500. And let me just talk about that. 5,500 people, and there was only 500 Oldham supporters, give or take. So 5,000 Salford people turned up to watch our first game. So they're there. And then we've had, obviously, then people have had match day tickets. In them last few games at home, the match day tickets have plummeted. And it's another revenue stream. You lose 300 or 400 match day tickets from away support coming in, another problem. So you've got to, and this is the fundamental reason why a lot of rugby league clubs, particularly in the lower leagues, go bust. Now, what I don't want anybody on this podcast to think is that we're going bust, because we won't. Because what I've also done is put a number of procedures in place to protect us against them scenarios happening. But ultimately, the facts remain. So we will do everything possible to create a better proposition. You know, payment over maybe 5-6 months, you can pay for your season ticket, 0 interest. They'll be not going out to a premium finance. It'll be done through the club. There'll be no interest applied on the top of it. Just need the support, and we'll obviously give you more details in there. Now is a period where the sponsorship is out this week, next 10 days for the existing sponsors, and then out to the wider audience. There's over 900 businesses in names in the last 5 years who in some way, different businesses, would you believe, have sponsored Salford in some capacity. That could have been a player, a match, ticket sponsorship, sideboard, 900 different businesses, and they'll all be contacted. Yeah. So I think it's really, really important. I just wanted to get that across to the Salford fans and the sponsors that we need your support more than ever. But we're asking for a huge uptake. I'm not saying, right, I want 4,000 season tickets. I need 700 people dying. I need 500 people in the Founders Club. No. I'm not asking for that. I'm asking for each one of you to come out. And if you do, I can promise you that we will have a very exciting side out there. And there'll be more times people walk out of that ground happy than they're sad. But that's always all comes down to money. And I think really, you need to hear from Ryan now in terms of the aspiration of the team, and I'm fully supportive of this. He joked before and says I might count him down. No, because I'm a winner and I want to win. Yeah. And we've settled down this season. We've got past, because we've got to where we've got to much quicker. It allows us to be in a position to go into next season with this attitude that you're going to hear from Ryan now, and kick on from there. So I hope that really, Matt and Paul, gives you some context in a simplistic way without being disrespectful to anybody. But really hear it from me that I've got to have your support. When season tickets go on sale, please don't wait till December to buy a season ticket. Please, because by the way, salaries start again in December because the new playing budget starts. So we have a little bit of a lull and then it peaks up again. So, we need to collect our revenue as quick as we possibly can. And then, obviously kick on from there. So over to you, Ryan, really.
Yeah, no, cool. I think I'm like you guys at the start of the season. I got sick of hearing that line. Just be grateful we've got a club to support.
Yeah.
Not buying it. Not buying it. And I know the board never bought it. Hence why we've made the changes and made the differences in players and staff, etc. And what I will say is I have one regret, me, during my Salford career, and I never won anything. Kills me to this day. Think about it every day. The semi-final against Saints, 2022, probably felt it was our time. Got stung a few times on a couple of refereeing decisions and etc. And wasn't meant to be. And I remember watching the grand final and Saints played Leeds and Saints battered Leeds that day. Leeds were awful and I know we would have beat them. I know we would have done. And there's a few things what led up to that. Obviously, Brodie Croft was knocked out game before, so couldn't play. Akers got knocked out first tackle of the game. So Lady Luck wasn't on our side that in that period. So my biggest regret playing for Salford is being part of that such a special team and never winning anything. Never winning silverware and my ambition now is to become the first CEO to win a trophy for Salford, and I need help with it. I need the fans to help me with it. It's something that I want badly for our club. I want to win the league next season, and I believe with the culture, with the identity, with the philosophy what we're bringing in with a couple of players who obviously have been mentioned, you Brad and Sneedy, but we're going to need more than that. And we, like what Mal said, we can only have 300 grand anyway because of the salary cap, so we can only have 300 grand. But like Mal said, if we do exactly the same as we did this year, we're not at 300 grand, we're at 135, whatever it was at. And I know for sure we're not going to win the league with that. We can't. And ultimately, this club needs to grow. And there's an element of it where there's a risk involved with signing them players. But what I will say, it's a calculated risk on the precedence that Salford fans also want a winning team, and that's where we need the support from the fans to back me, to help me build a winning team. And because the drop off Malc mentioned in match tickets, because let's be honest, the reality they probably know we're going to get beat, especially against London. It was going to be a tough day at the office for us. London in a unique situation, and I can guarantee next year there'll be no tough days at the office if we can get our playing budget to 300 grand, and that's obviously through commercial revenue, through sponsorship, through season. But I was scared of saying that tonight, and being vulnerable, because I think I watch a lot of leaders and I watch a lot of CEOs of sports teams, and they can play diplomatic and they can play the long game with stuff and that we're all right, we're good, don't worry, we're good. I'm all right coming out and saying we're not good because I want to win a trophy, and I need help with it. I need Salford fans to help me win a trophy for this club, which I think it'll be just what it deserves. I want to win the league, and I believe that it's possible, but it's not possible on the playing budget we have now. So Mal gave the brutal facts and the honesty of it, and I'm giving I guess a competitive ex-sportsman point of view that I want to win, and I know the playing squad want that. They're not just going to chill and be happy to play for Salford. I know they want that. Next year there'll be the 1895 Cup and winning the championship. I want to win both. I want to win trophies. I want to win silver. I want to be part of this new Salford era and be the first CEO to hold that trophy. But I need help, and Malc's bang on. I think he's mentioned all the revenue lines, and I know it can get quite tedious and quite boring. But I do believe with a 300 grand budget, playing budget, we can achieve something pretty special. So yeah, not the rallying cry as such, but it's I'm from a purely selfish point of view. I want our Salford fans to experience silverware, doing things the right way with the right people, who deserve it as well. Is that fair, Mal? What do you say?
I think that's a fair look at. Everybody's a winner. We all want to win, but I think what you're hearing is a genuine honesty in both of our voices about what our aspirations are. But I just want to add one more thing. I want to find ways for Salford supporters to help outside of taking hard-earned cash out of the pocket as well. I've got some ideas in my head about how they can support this club in other ways. And that's something I'm going to be working with the team over the next few weeks to come up with some ideas and maybe put a focus group together of a set of people, because I'm also conscious of there's various things being done with groups put together, and there's obviously already Sports Trust, but I'm not talking about that. I got a phone call. Everybody knows I'm very good friends with Danny Gray, yeah. And Danny rang me while I was away because he was at the game on the weekend, and to say, "Oh, mate, great news with Sneyd." And he goes, "Mate, I need to help. What can I do to help?" He said, "I've got people ringing me, people you don't even know, Salford fans, asking, what do we need to do to help this group?" Yeah. And he said, "I could bring 6 people along tomorrow." So, and it kind of triggered that I've already been thinking about this and saying that there's things that people could do. These people could connect people to sponsors. These people could help with how do we create a better fan zone outside, because there isn't one, yeah, and that should be driven by the supporters, and that's something I've really want to get creative in that space about more engagement outside of guys can have some money as well, yeah. But you know what? When they give me some money, I'm going to try my best. We're going to try our best to give you something back in value as well, outside of just a plastic ticket that takes you in the gate, yeah. As well as hopefully you're walking out 9 times out of 10 happy because we win. So I know, as I say, to Ryan says, it sounds, I keep banging on about it, but it's just important. These opportunities don't come up that often to get these messages across, and you earn it from myself and Ryan now. And I'm excited for next year. I'm really excited. And I know who Ryan wants to sign, and so because I'm part of that conversations, and if I think we can add this couple more, 2-3 more players of the ilk that he's looking for, we're going to be a force to reckon with next year. And salary cap does everybody a favour because it levels the playing field. And there is a way around salary cap because you can override it by guaranteeing it, as we all know. But I think that will level the playing field, as well as where will we be graded in the league. So it's our time to shine next year, and we've got to do everything possible to support Ryan and the playing guys, because where do we want to be? Super League. So if we finish where we want to finish next year, then what does 28, 29 look like? Well, it's got to be aspirations for Super League, hasn't it? So maybe there's the answer to the question I got asked on the 6th of January when I get back into Super League. 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah, so we both basically put our heads on the chopping block now. He's going to win the league next year, and I guarantee we're back in Super League in 3 years.
Here we go. Absolute meltdown incoming now. Here we go.
Yeah. Switch my phone off now when you post this.
Yeah, don't go on Twitter for a few weeks, guys.
Yeah.
I mean, as well, right? You've got no doubt, Ryan, your phone's ringing off the hook. Nathan Cleary's looking for a new club, and you're now telling him we don't need you anymore, pal. We've got Marc Sneyd now, so he's going to the New Zealand Warriors instead now, isn't he? I bet he's gutted about that instead.
But it's funny because I've met Nathan a few times because my one of my players, Jesse's best mate is Nathan Cleary's girlfriend, Mary Fowler. And it was dead funny. I spoke to him last year because there was a few rumours that he was well, from Siren Curtis, clearly a lie, obviously, but around bringing Nathan Cleary to the club, and I remember the two guys in particular said, yeah, we've spoke to him. I said, Nathan, these two guys spoke to you. He said, I don't have a clue who they are. I've never heard of them in my life. So it was hilarious that I actually thought it could actually be a possibility. But no, not in the short term. But I'll get Jess to speak to Mary and maybe try and influence him when Malc said when we're back in Super League.
in 2 years.
Yeah, in 2 years.
I've already got a year, so
Them two were like, oh yeah, we spoke to Cleary, but it was Ivan Cleary. That was the problem.
Crazy.
I just want to summarise up like everything we've said here, because something that went through my head before as you were talking about it is, we went from a position last year of not wanting to lose, and you both said around, I don't want to lose the club, I don't want that to be taken away from us, and sort of kind of snatching a win from the jaws of defeat, if you will, right? So we've gone from that needing to avoid losing mentality now to a hunger and a desire to win. And I think that's been apparent and the theme of this throughout. And as we've moved from sort of left to right on the timeline, we have definitely gone from we don't want to lose to now we absolutely desperate to win. And I think that's something that's come across to me throughout this podcast. And I hope people listening to this as well are getting that same feeling. Paul, I just want to bring you in because we've gone through the questions and all the stuff now. More if you have anything else that you want to ask, and then Malc and Ryan, I'll give you both just a bit of an open floor just to help us wrap up.
No, there's not a lot I want to ask really. You covered everything really, mate. I've just been listening and agreeing with it because the way I look at it is I don't, me, I'm dead cautious. I don't look for like 2-3 years. I just focus on the next game that's coming. So I'm not thinking about Super League. I'm just thinking about Widnes Widnes Friday night and then the Swinton game after that. That's the way I do it, mate. But no, I think we're lucky the way we are. We've still got our club, which was the main thing to be honest. And then, like Ryan said, though, I've been saying it all season. We're not just happy to be here. I think I said that to you.
Yeah.
A few people said to me at the start of the season, it was free at this season. And it went through me. It's like, no, it's not. You go to a match to win, don't you? And whatever. So, no, I agree with what he's saying. And I think you've got the same mentality as I think we all have, haven't we? We've all got the same mentality. We all want to do well and just keep progressing. And, a lot of what the two guys are saying, Malc and Ryan, a lot of the business sort of side of stuff goes over my head. I'm a rugby league man. And, that's what I concentrate on. But no, I'm just looking forward to see where we go in 27 and just good luck. And, I'll be buying my season ticket the day it comes out, so I'll be ready, mate. So, not about a shirt, though. I've not bought a shirt for a few years, but I might have to buy one now with that rallying cry from Malc.
100%. Yeah. So you be the first. So you can be number one, Paul. I'd say no, number two. I'm number one. I've actually got number one. Both two shirts and the original press, the first home and first away shirt. I'd say, believe it or not, I've sent them back to England to get framed to send them back here because it's cheaper. How bizarre is that? It's cheaper to get them framed. So, look, Matt, Paul. Firstly, appreciate both of your time. I know it's late for you and early for me, but that just shows the commitment across all of us. We're all here for common purpose. It's Salford. We're all open people, and I'm happy to talk to anybody all the time. We will graft our backsides off and continue to graft our backsides off to get this club where it needs to be, and we will create some memories on the way. From my perspective, I'll come back 2 or 3 times a year. I don't need to be back any more than that. And as I said before, if I ever feel that I can deliver what's necessary for this club because of where I live, I'd still stay involved, but I'll be the first to put my hand up and say, we need to bring somebody else in because it needs to kick on. And the fact that there's a time, 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours at night, it's not enough. Yeah, that's not right now. But I'm enjoying every moment of it. What a ride. and the people I'm doing it with as well is pretty special.
Brilliant. Ryan, pass to you.
Yeah, I honestly, I just wish everyone could see what I see every day, and that's a group of unbelievable individuals who do not stop in their work ethic to make this club successful. Every day we're trying to improve. Every day we're trying something different. Every day we're trying to look out. What's the next thing? How can we get better? And um, I'm quite I get upset really that people don't see that, because if they could, if we could bottle it up and show people, like I know how much hope that would generate, and how much encouragement that would give. But yeah, back to what Malc's talking about, doing everything we can, and we will. This club is every day. My fear is just surviving and staying stagnant. What happened? It'll be different things. Even the announcement with Sneyd, no one's ever been announced on the pitch before a game as a new signing, and the social media around it. It's very deliberate. It's not just off a whim. There's a reason we do these things, and I think it's important that everyone understands that although we in regards pecking order, we know where we are, but we're not happy. We want to be better. We are going to try our hardest to be better. And I think it's took a lot of bravery for me and Malc today on this podcast to be vulnerable and to be scared of saying certain things, but having the courage to say them in hope it is received the right way, because that's the intention. We're not meaning to scare people, and we're not mean to, I guess, upset and discourage people. It's actually the opposite, because we know how important this club being successful means to these fans, and I just know we're building something special. Like I said before, I just wish people could see it from our eyes, because there's a special feel, there's a special connection. I always use the word connection. We keep going back to that word connection, but finally we're connected as a club, and we get one chance at this in generating something pretty powerful and special. And I don't want to miss that opportunity, because we've got a real good space now in our journey of this new club in this new era to be really, really powerful and special, and there'd be no better way to experience that with a bit of silver at the end of next year. So yeah, I'm encouraging every bit of help we can get, because I know how much it means to people. So again, first and foremost, thanks for having us on, guys. It's like what Malc said, you don't get many chances at doing this, and we're very busy people and can't really get vulnerable and get emotional with people. But I just hope that comes across in the podcast and fans really can relate to that, because we are in for the right reasons, and we want to win. We want to be successful, which every fan wants, clearly.
No, absolutely.
Matt, sorry, one last thing, sorry, just two very quick things.
Yeah.
Friday the 4th of September, put in your date. It will be a celebration of the year at the club. It's a Friday night. It'll be a ticketed event, bit of entertainment, bit of food on for fans, players and supporters. It won't be a traditional evening of player announced, player awards. No, it's just going to be a get together, a few speeches, and a knees up for what happened in the year. And secondly, we would like to announce that there'll be, subject to availability, the President's Dinner will be launched this year. Hopefully it'll be in November, which is very much, people remember the Chairman's Dinner, which was held at the Midland for many, many years. But John Wilkinson wants to run an event to support the club and have like an evening style with John Wilkinson, maybe a fascinating evening for John with some really really good guests and that. Not got any dates for that yet. In fact, I'm talking to John over the next couple of days, but just wanted to put them to him. But Friday the 4th of September is locked in for a get together at the club, and we'll put some details out soon. And please support it. That room holds 1,250 people without any seats in it. So if we can get 750 for a fans forum, granted it will be a ticketed and cost event because we need to make money, but I'm sure we can get 700-800 people in that room and celebrate what's happened this year.
Sounds like a great night, and I'll be there, mate. Absolutely. Sounds great. I'm going to wrap it up, but thank you both for all your time. Appreciate it's early for you, Malc, and late for you, Ryan. I said that like you're somewhere else, like you're East Coast of America or something like that. Didn't I?
You're in the same.
We're all going to bed. Hurry up.
I'm slightly more east than you. I'm about 10 minutes more east than you, mate. But no, thanks for jumping on with us. We really appreciate it. I won't do the usual wrap up that I normally do with everything else, but what I will say is I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Have a great week, Reds, and bring on the Salford.
Badger's Bathrooms and Boilers undertake everything from plumbing and heating jobs all the way through to full house renovations. They're also gas safe registered, so if you need a new bathroom, kitchen or boiler and you live around the St Helens area, then contact Danny today on 07861 483 735 and get your quote today.